Hello and welcome to my first art journal in my traveler's notebooks. This is my watercolor TN notebook that I made myself. I have a video if you wanted to make one yourself too. I'll link it below. I made this TN insert out of watercolor paper, and I'm calling this series my Watercolor Art Journal 2018. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add color using watercolors. These are my Koi Sakura. I love these. I've had them for about 5-6 years now, and they are my go-to palette. I think they are so great. The colors are wonderful, and what I'm doing is I've chosen a color palette, which is the top row. So it's 3 shades of yellow, a light yellow, a medium yellow, and a deep yellow. There's also like a peach color. There's also an orange color. So what I'm doing is I'm just wetting the page, not sopping, but enough to allow the watercolors to mix. I'm also not applying gesso to this. This is watercolor paper, and I want the watercolor to move and flow and mix like watercolor does. I do break my rule a little bit, and I add just a little bit of a red. It's like a dusty, rosy red. I'm also telling myself that I need to leave some white space, so we'll see how I go with that. I have a lot. I have a problem with leaving white space alone. I was creating a lot of brush strokes or brush marks, so I wanted to be a little bit freer, so I started blobbing and splattering red paint around, and sure enough, that red stuff is like all over my desk, and I did have to clean it up afterwards. I am drying in between layers because I want that color to dry like true. I don't want it to mix, and then I'm going to go back and try really hard not to disturb those layers that I've created earlier, and just add layer on top of that. So going in again with my light and just splattering once again, adding some texture, just developing that layer, that bottom layer with oranges and yellows, and once again drying really, really well. Now, the second layer that I'm going to add is a collage layer. This is an ephemera pack by Craft called Golden Grove. And because of the theme of this art journal spread is going to be my word for the year. And my word for the year is evolve. So I chose some elements out of that ephemera pack that represented growth and evolution for me. So evolution comes with time, so the time clock is there. Flowers and leaves, they all start really small, and then they grow and they evolve and they unfurl and they become beautiful. There is also a key to evolving, and once you realize what that key is, you're good to go. That's why the key is there. And I really feel like this year is the year for me to evolve into a better version of myself. Now, how I'm applying these collage elements is I'm adding it with PVA glue and a little bit of double-sided tape. I left that corner scroll up the top there. It's black. I told myself I'm not allowed to use black, but just one element of black is fine. I love it. It really draws your eye like away and then back in. Now, I kind of broke from my routine here, and I decided to put stencil straight away. And I'm stenciling. This is a Craft stencil, and I'm using gesso, and I don't love it. It seeped. It's thick. I thought perhaps I used the wrong way of the stencil, but it seeped underneath the stencil, and it wasn't firm arrow marks. So I thought that I would just remove it straight away, and it's okay to make mistakes. That's part of evolution. So I scrape it, and the scraping actually looks really good. It kind of looks quite vintagey. So I thought perhaps that I wasn't using the correct product. I thought, oh, perhaps I don't need to be applying it the the gesso through the stencil with a palette knife. So I thought, okay, let's just clean off my stencil. And I'm using a baby wipe here, and I thought I was never going to buy baby wipes after my kids were out of diapers, but here I am still in the baby aisle buying baby wipes because I need them for art journaling. So I clean off my stencil, and I thought, look, I think what I need to do is apply white paint through the stencil using like a sponge. I have this sea sponge here, and so I'm going to cut off some, and I'm going to dab it through the stencil with this acrylic paint. Now, in hindsight, this acrylic paint is Semco. I have this thing with Semco. Why do I buy Semco? It's never good enough. So it's liquidy. It never comes out true to color. I should not buy Semco. Learned my lesson. So I try it here, and because the gesso is underneath, you don't really see what's happening. So I move it to the right hand side and I apply it once more. It's okay. It's there. It's faint, but it's sort of not really what I wanted. So what I thought I would do is try using the sponge with a little bit of the gesso, and that is what I want. So I think I learned from this, and from now on I am going to apply gesso through the stencil with a sponge. So that is so wonderful. But I did break with my order because I'm not supposed to be adding stencil at this point just yet. But I kind of really wanted to. I felt like I wanted to, so that's okay. So I'm just making sure that everything is dry here. Some of the gesso did get on the leaves, which is fine. I'm okay with that. It's going to get a whole lot dirtier in a moment. Now, the collage elements I realized were they were sitting on top of the page, and I didn't want that. I wanted them to be incorporated into the page, if you know what I mean. I wanted them to be almost like the page had that element to start off with, and then I added color around it. So I had to go in with gel medium and mat it down, and I dried it really well. So after that, what I decided to do is add a third layer of add another layer of color. And so this is the third layer of my art journal layout. The third layer is to add some more color. Now I'm going in with acrylic paint, adding a layer on top of a layer, and that's all art journaling really is. And I chose the same colors as I chose with the watercolors, but these are now like darker. So you need to add, I took a watercolor class last year, and the most important thing that I came away with was that you need to add dark hues and dark value to really bring out your work. So I am going around the element or the focal image of this layout with some orange, a mid orange and a dark orange, and then where there's edges, where I've left edges, I went back in with yellow paint, with really watery yellow paint, and I'm just adding it on top and allowing it to mix so it looks incorporated and that there are no harsh marks. Where the yellow was too much and took away some of the orange, I went back in with a really watery orange mixture, and I just added a little bit around that focal element to really make it pop from the yellow background. That's looking really good. Just adding some splatter, which again went everywhere, but really good. I don't want this to be neat. I want this to be like a whirlwind of color and energy and art journaling. I'm drying that off really well because I did make quite a watery mixture of acrylic paint. So layer 4 is where you stamp and stencil, and this is where I should have started adding the gesso, but no worries, it's there now. So I'm using this Case of Crafts script. I used black archival, and in hindsight I shouldn't have because it was really stark. So I grabbed this graphite, cool graphite, which I should have use the script stamp with, but not to worry. I've got this periwinkle stamp here from Craft, and when I apply it with the gray, it is perfect. It's muted, yet it gives you an image in the background, and instead of the background being just yellow paper, it looks like, could it be text? Could it be like an image from a book? I don't know what it is. What is that in the back? It kind of creates interest, and I really love it. The next thing I do, I have this tiny script, and you can't make out any of the words, but I just added a little bit of the cool graphite in to the places where there was nothing, like the paper was blank, just with color, and I added that there. Now I thought it needed a little bit something, and I did this, and I thought, oh, what am I doing? The color is not going, the color does not go with my color scheme. I didn't like it, and I was just cleaning off my sponge, and I thought, oh, should I take it away? And I thought, no, you know what? I know it's bothering me, but I'm just going to leave it alone for now. I'm going to dry it, and I'm going to leave it alone. And if it's really bothering me at the end, I'll take it back. So I'm just dry brushing some white acrylic paint, and I took it back just a little bit, and it actually looks really good. That extra pop of pink kind of works really well. And then what I decided to do was just tone down these colors. So this is a really dry brushing with white acrylic paint on top. If this was a photo and it was too bright, you would change the filter so it wasn't so bright. And so this is basically what I'm doing with this step here. I'm just toning it down so that it all incorporates well, adding a little bit of extra on those pink to bring it down just a bit. So I thought that looks really good, and then I remember thinking, excuse me, where's my white space? So with that extra little bit there, I decided to add an extra bit of the white there, just to give myself the white space. I know it's cheating. It's really bad, but it's the beginning of the year, right? Like, I'm just starting. It's beginner mistakes. So that's just looking really good, and I'm really happy with that. So I'm ready to add my sentiment. I've got this MFT die in small and capitals, and I die cut the word evolve, or the letters to spell the word evolve, out of watercolor paper, and I'm just adding a little bit of archival black ink to it. I didn't want to die cut them out of black cardstock because I knew that would be too stark. And so as I add these letters here now, you'll see just how well it looks inked, inked and not heavily inked, just lightly inked. And I'm just going to add them here with PVA glue. I love the combination of small letters and large letters. Evolution doesn't happen in one go. Some days you're up, some days you're down, some days you have energy, some days you just can't handle it. So I love the little and large caps here. So the final stage, which is the stage that I am never ever good at, and I'm going to try really hard this year to do it, is doodling and finishing off your work. Now, one thing I felt doing this was fear, believe it or not. I felt, wow, you know what, I've gotten this far. It's so lovely. I love it. I want to stop here. I don't want to ruin it. And I was not mad at myself, but I was surprised at myself that I actually had that feeling. And when I was doing my mini gorgeous cover, I felt that same feeling, and I stopped at a stage where I knew it wasn't finished and I wasn't quite happy with it, but I was afraid of ruining it. So I chided myself after I did that video, and I thought, you know what, this is why I'm doing this series. This is why I'm doing art journaling, because I want to have confidence to bring about something that I see in my head, and I want to bring it to paper, but I don't know quite how to do it. So I'm so excited to be doing this. So I was really scared here again. I thought, oh, I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to do blobs. And I went really lightly and I loved it. And I thought, oh, I'll do it again. I'll do a second border. And I love, love, love how it turned. And I just adore this first spread for January. I'm going to show you some photos here. Thank you so much for joining me, everybody. And I look forward to seeing some of your art journals. And have a lovely January, and I'll see you in February.